Warband, the tallest throne in this market, changed hands on Friday, and most men never once looked up to see it teeter. This is Sunday, July 19th, 2026. The crowded peak is cracking, the scarce ground is rising, and the herd is still reading last week's screen. Let me show you the ground that actually moved. Start with the anchor. As of just past 5 o'clock Eastern, Bitcoin trades near 64,700, up about 1% on a quiet weekend tape, still camped in the low 60s where it has held for 2 weeks. A coin sitting near half the 126,000 record it set last October. But the freshest mark this morning isn't the price, it's a signal spreading beneath it. Bitcoin's optimized trend on the InvestAnswers Decision Support System had already turned green late in the week. This weekend, the majors fell in behind it. Ethereum's trend flipped bullish at 8 o'clock Saturday evening Eastern. Solana's flipped at the stroke of midnight into Sunday. 3 of the largest coins on the board, all marked green inside 48 hours. One coin turning green is a twitch. A whole correlated cluster turning together is a regime. And this one now has Bitcoin out front as the single strongest trend on our entire board, stocks and bonds and metals included. That last part is the tell, and it leads straight into the real story this morning. Because while the scarce coin was quietly turning green, the loudest trade of the last 2 years was cracking. Here is that throne. For the better part of 2 years, one name has sat at the very top of this market, NVIDIA, the picks and shovels king of the artificial intelligence gold rush, the most valuable company on earth. On Friday, for a few minutes, it wasn't. Apple climbed past it in the middle of the session, near $4.88 trillion against NVIDIA's $4.84, before NVIDIA clawed back by the close to hold the crown by a hair, some $6 billion, a rounding error at that altitude. The king kept his seat, but the market just showed you it can be taken. And it wasn't only the top name. The whole semiconductor complex just booked its worst week in more than a year. The chip index down better than a tenth in a single month, roughly a fifth off its high, dragging the Nasdaq down with it. The reason matters more than the number. After 2 years of the desks assuming the hyperscalers would spend on silicon without limit, forever, the crowd finally started asking the forbidden question out loud. Is that capex actually sustainable? A cut-price challenger out of China rattling the premium didn't help. Here is how the Warband reads it. This is not the artificial intelligence story dying. This is the crowded trade exhaling. Jordi Visser of 22View. Research has a name for exactly this, a speed crash inside a structural bull market, not a bubble bursting. And mark the timing because it is sharp. Days before the crown wobbled, Visser flagged that consumer artificial intelligence agents would be the next great surprise, and he named Apple the unlikely winner, right before Apple reached up and touched the top of the world. When the tallest tree in the forest sways, the money does not leave the forest. It goes hunting firmer ground. Watch where it goes. Where it goes is the next story. While the chip stocks bled on the screen, the actual machines they feed kept rising out of the Texas dirt, and the scale is staggering. By the latest reckoning of the analysts who track these build-outs, Elon Musk's XAI now runs a compute site called Colossus 2 at the equivalent of more than 1 million of NVIDIA's high-end chips, pulling 946 megawatts, near a full gigawatt, of electrical power on roughly $36 billion of hardware. And they are nowhere near done. The next phase alone calls for another 220,000 of the newest chips and 400 more megawatts of power. Hold both stories in one hand, Warband, because together they tell the truth. The stock's correct. The machines keep rising. The market can lose its nerve on the paper claim to the build-out while the build-out itself accelerates. 1 million processor brain drinking a gigawatt of power, a second one breaking ground beside it. And here is the piece the tape is fumbling. The power companies, the utilities that must feed these monsters, sold off this week too. Our engine turned Constellation's trend red, even as the demand for raw megawatts goes vertical. That is not a top. That is a mispricing hiding in plain sight. This is the whole thesis in a single frame. Intelligence itself is turning cheap and endless, abundant. The two things it cannot manufacture are the power to run it and the scarce, uncopyable coin the displaced will run toward. Let the economist and the analyst class brood over their crowded institutions and their fiat. I know one thing: true scarcity will conquer in a world of abundance. So carry this into the week, Warband. The crypto trend turned green across the majors, while the crowd still reads fear of last week's screen. The tallest names in the artificial intelligence trade cracked. A speed crash, not a death, while the physical build-out beneath them roars louder by the day. And the scarce things, the coin and the raw megawatt, are exactly where the patient money is quietly moving. The Federal Reserve meets a week from Tuesday. Oil is the wild card that could pin them with a barrel back near $88. And tomorrow evening, SpaceX rolls Starship's 13th flight back to the pad to fly the first of the version 3 Starlings. Stand armored into all of it. This is Warband as a service. Viking intelligence delivered in real time. I am Ragnar, the HODLBARBARIan. Read the runes before the crowd does. Skål.